a sound or you'll wake them in the deepest part of the ancient forest. The flickering candlelight illuminates the faded pages of a story. Hedgehog still sits and tells the stories that people dare not tell before.
The Alchemist of Lost Causes. Prologue, The Last Echo. The world did not end with fire or ice, but with silence. They called it the Great Stillness. No one knew its origin. A weapon gone awry, a celestial ailment, a gods turned back. It was a wave of utter negation that swept across the continents, unmaking reality from the edges inward. It left no ruins, no skeletons, only a vast, grey, featureless plain under a sky of the same monotonous hue. The laws of physics, of time, of life itself, were gently, irrevocably, erased.
Only one place remained, a single, solitary city known as Aethelgard, protected by a desperate, last-ditch creation, the Cronus engine. It was not a shield of energy, but a shield of memory. The engine, a colossal, crystalline heart buried deep beneath the city, pulsed with the collected memories of a billion lost souls, a psychic barrier that convinced reality that Aethelgard was still supposed to exist. It fought the stillness with the only weapon that could resist it, the stubborn ghost of what once was.
But the engine was failing. The memories were finite, and they were being consumed. To sustain the bubble of existence, a terrible price was exacted. The city's ruler, the Archivist Kalen, and his order of Nemocrats, had to deliberately erase the past. They called it the Quietening. Whole centuries of art, music, and history were fed into the engine's maw to buy a few more years of present. The city lived in a state of perpetual, managed amnesia. Its inhabitants knew only a shallow, fading now, their lives stripped of context, their culture a ghost of a ghost. They were the last people in a world that had already forgotten them. Chapter 1. The Girl Who Remembered Rain. In the highest spire of the archive, where the grey sky pressed against the glass like a suffocating blanket, lived Elara. She was the archivist's daughter, a girl of 17 with eyes the color of a sky that no longer existed. Her role was to be a scribe, to inscribe the fading memories onto resonance crystals before they were fed to the engine. It was a sacred, sorrowful duty. But Elara had a secret, a dangerous, glorious affliction. She was an echo keeper. The memories she handled did not just pass through her hands, they took root in her mind. While the city forgot, she remembered. She remembered the taste of rain, a sensation so alien her tongue would ache with the memory. She remembered the color green, and the weight of a real sun on her skin. She carried the ghost of a lost world inside her skull, a vibrant, screaming chaos that was a stark contrast to the grey silence of Aethelgard. Her father, Archivist Kalen, was a man carved from grief and duty. His face was a mask of serene control, but his eyes were tombs. "You must not become attached, Elara," he would say, his voice soft as falling dust. A memory is a unit of fuel. A story is a calculation for survival. To cling is to dam the river that keeps us alive. The quietening is a mercy. Is it mercy to forget what it means to be human? She once dared to ask. Humanity is a luxury the universe has revoked, he replied, turning back to his console, where the light of a dying poet's last sonnet was flickering out. We are curators of a closing museum. Our only duty is to ensure the lights do not go out on the last exhibit. Elara's secret rebellion was her hidden journal. She did not inscribe on crystals, but on stolen scraps of real parchment with a vial of real ink she had found in a sealed vault. She drew the things she remembered. A bird in flight, a forest, a smiling face. These acts felt more real, more sacred, than any transfer to a crystal. She was building an ark not of light, but of paper and ink, and she was its only passenger. One day, she was tasked with quietening a particularly vibrant memory cluster, the life's work of a composer from the pre-stillness era. As the last symphony faded from the crystal, a single, stubborn note refused to die. It hung in the air, a shimmering C-sharp that vibrated not in her ears, but in her soul. And with it came a vision, not of sound, but of a place. A tower, not of steel and glass like the spires of Aethelgard, but of ancient, weathered stone, wreathed in mist. And a single, clear thought, like a voice on the wind. Find me. Chapter 2. The Ghost in the Machine. The vision was an impossibility. Nothing existed beyond the city. The stillness was absolute. Yet, the memory of the tower was more real to her than the room she stood in. It was a memory that pointed outward. She began to search the deepest, most forbidden levels of the archive, the crypt of the unquietened, where memories deemed too dangerous or too painful to be used as fuel were stored. Here, in the oppressive silence, she found echoes of rebellion, of those who had believed the stillness could be fought, not just endured. She found references to a man called Alaric, the Alchemist of Lost Causes. He was a contemporary of the first archivist, but where the archivists chose preservation through sacrifice, Alaric had chosen a different path. He believed the stillness was not an end, but a disease, and that a cure existed. He spoke of a nexus point, a place where the fabric of reality had first begun to unravel, and where it might be woven back together. He was declared a heretic, his research sealed away, his name quietened. The final record was a damaged audio log. A man's voice, frantic, brilliant, and desperate. They think we can hide forever in a shrinking bubble of the past. They are wrong. The stillness is patient. It will wait. The only way to save the future is to risk the memory of the past. The engine is a lifeboat, but a lifeboat is not a home. I have found the source. The anchorite's spire. If the memory of the world has a heart, it beats there. I am going. If I fail, forget me. It will be a kind of fate. The anchorite's spire. It was the tower from her vision. Elara knew what she had to do. She was condemning the city to a slower death by taking him, but staying was a guarantee of oblivion. She would find the spire. She would find Alaric's cure. She confronted her father. She showed him her journal, spoke of the vision of Alaric. Caelan's serene mask shattered. You have been echo-keeping. His voice was a horrified whisper. Do you understand what you have done? You have made yourself a reservoir of unsanctioned memory. You are instability in our one stable system. The engine's calculations are based on controlled decay. You are a variable it cannot account for. Alaric said the engine was a lifeboat, not a home. Elara argued. Alaric was a fool who got himself erased for a fantasy. Caelan roared, a sound so foreign it echoed in the sterile room. There is nothing out there, Elara. Nothing. Only the stillness. To leave the city is to be unmade. You will cease to exist. Not die. You will never have been. Then I will have never been, she cried. But if I stay, we will all fade into this grey non-existence. I would rather be unmade trying to remember than slowly fade away by being forced to forget. She saw the conflict in his eyes, the archivist versus the father. The archivist won. He moved to activate a console, likely to have her restrained, her dangerous memories quietened.
In that moment, Elara did the only thing she could. She turned and ran.
Chapter 3, The Unmaking Plain. Her escape was a blur of stolen moments and desperate leaps. She used her knowledge of the archive's ventilation shafts and maintenance corridors, places no one else had reason to go. She emerged not at the city's grand gates, but at a forgotten service airlock on the very edge of the dome, where the Cronus engine field was thinnest. Taking a breath that felt like her last, she stepped through. The effect was instantaneous and horrifying. It was not a physical sensation, but an existential one. The world outside was not a landscape. It was a nullscape. The ground was not stone or earth. It was a flat, dimensionless grey. There was no up or down, no hot or cold. The air did not move. Sound did not carry. It was a vacuum of meaning. And it was actively hostile. The moment she stepped into it, she felt a gentle, persistent tugging at the edges of herself. It was the stillness, trying to unremember her. It started with the small things. She forgot the name of her childhood pet. Then the pattern on her mother's favorite dress. The memories weren't fading. They were being neatly, surgically, extracted. Panic, a hot, sharp feeling in this cold nothingness, seized her. She focused on the memory of the spire, holding it in her mind like a lantern. She began to walk, or what passed for walking in a place with no terrain. Each step was a battle. The stillness whispered not with words, but with the promise of peace, of an end to the struggle, of simply letting go. She fought back with her stolen memories. She recited poems she had inscribed. She hummed melodies meant for the engine's furnace. She pictured the drawings in her journal. Each memory was a stone she placed on the path, a tiny anchor in the void. But with every memory she used to defend herself, she felt it being worn away, used up. She was burning her own past to fuel her present.
She lost days, or perhaps only seconds. Time had no purchase here. She saw phantoms, not ghosts of people, but ghosts of places. A shimmering echo of a mountain range here, a faint, colourful smear that might have been a field of flowers there. These were the ghosts of unquietened memories, bleeding from her into the void and briefly giving it shape. She was a wound in the stillness, leaking a dying world's last dreams.
Just as she felt her sense of self beginning to dissolve, her own name starting to slip from her mind, she saw it. A solidity in the grey. A jagged line against the non-sky. The Anchorite's Spire. Chapter 4, The Alchemist's Gambit.
It was exactly as she had seen it. A tower of black, rough-hewn stone, standing utterly alone in the infinite grey. It looked less built and more, remembered into existence. The stillness seemed to press against it but could not quite touch it. The spire was a memory so powerful it had become a fact.
The door was a single slab of obsidian. It opened at her touch, not with a sound, but with a sensation of release, like a held breath finally exhaled. Inside, the air was thick with preserved time. The chamber was circular, filled not with machines, but with artifacts. A single, wilted rose under a glass bell. A child's wooden toy. A tattered flag. And in the center, seated cross-legged before a low brazier in which a faint, silver flame flickered, was a man. He was ancient, his skin like parchment, his hair a long, white cascade. But his eyes were alive, burning with an intensity that belied his frail form. It was Alaric. "You are late, child," he said, his voice a dry rustle, yet filled with a profound warmth. "I have been waiting a long time." "You're alive?" Elara breathed, her mind reeling. Alive is a relative term, Alaric smiled faintly. "I am remembered. I anchored myself here, to this last, true memory of a place that was. The stillness cannot take what is perpetually being reinforced by a will as stubborn as mine." He gestured to the flame. "This is the last ember. The first memory, the memory of creation itself. It is the source of my longevity, and the key to your quest."
He explained his theory. The stillness was not an external force, but a cosmic immune response. The universe, perceiving a flaw in its own design, the chaotic, unpredictable nature of consciousness and memory, had begun to reset itself. The Cronus engine was fighting the symptom, not the disease. It was trying to preserve a corrupted file, while the system was trying to format the hard drive.
"The cure is not to hide our memories," Alaric said, his eyes gleaming. "It is to offer the universe a better one. A memory so beautiful, so powerful, so fundamentally right, that it convinces reality that we are not a flaw, but a feature." He pointed to her. "The archivist chose to preserve the past by destroying it. I chose to preserve one, single, perfect memory. But it is not enough. It needs a catalyst. It needs a vessel to carry it back into the world. A vessel filled with the raw, unsanctioned, chaotic memories of a life actually lived. A vessel like you." He told her the cost. The last ember could not be carried like a torch. It had to be ignited within a soul. She would have to merge her consciousness with the first memory. "You will become a story, Elara," he warned. "A living, breathing tale. Your every thought, your every feeling, will be woven into the foundational narrative of a new reality. You will not die, but the you that you know will be subsumed into something vast and eternal. It is the ultimate quietening, and the ultimate act of remembrance." Elara looked from the ancient alchemist to the silver flame. She thought of her father, sacrificing the past for a future that was only a slower death. She thought of the grey, silent city, and the vibrant, lost world in her journal. She thought of the rain. She did not hesitate. "What do I do?" Chapter 5, The New Genesis. Alaric's instructions were simple. She had to sit before the ember and remember, not with the focus of a scribe, but with the wild abandon of a living being. She had to remember everything, every joy, every pain, every trivial and monumental moment she had ever echo-kept. She closed her eyes. She let the memories flow. Not as discrete units, but as a river. The smell of old books. The sting of a scraped knee. The crushing weight of her mother's death. The illicit joy of her first kiss with a boy whose face she had almost forgotten. The taste of strawberries. The color of her father's eyes when he smiled, truly smiled, a lifetime ago. She remembered the symphony, the one that had led her here. She remembered the feel of the ink on her parchment, the act of creation. She poured it all into the silver flame. The ember flared, not with heat, but with meaning. It swelled, engulfing her. She felt a terrifying unraveling. Her memories were not being erased, they were being read, understood, and woven into a grander tapestry. She saw the history of the world, not as a timeline, but as a symphony, and her life was a single, vital motif within it.
In the sunken city, Archivist Callan felt it. The Cronus engine, which had been sputtering on its last dregs of fuel, suddenly flared with an impossible, brilliant light. The grey dome that protected the city shimmered, then began to change. The monotonous grey softened, blushed with colour. The featureless sky began to swirl with wisps of white and blue. Outside, on the Unmaking Plain, the null state began to shudder. The grey retreated like a tide, and in its wake, reality rushed in. Grass, green and impossibly vibrant, sprouted from the long ground. A sun, golden and warm, ignited in the sky. Mountains pushed their way upwards, and rivers carved their paths with a joyful roar. It was not the old world being restored, but a new one being born, built upon the template of the old, but informed by its story, by her story.
Callan stumbled out of the archive, his eyes wide with a terror and a wonder he had not felt in decades. He looked up at the blue sky, felt a breeze on his face, and a single, long-forgotten word escaped his lips. Elara, epilogue, the girl who became the world. The new world was not a paradise. It had its shadows, its storms, its winters. It was a real world, with all the beauty and peril that entailed. The people of Aethelgard, now simply the people, had to learn to live in it, to build, to plant, to feel rain and fear predators. Callan became the guide, a man haunted by the memory of his daughter, whom he had both failed and, in her sacrifice, been saved by. He taught them what he could remember, and they discovered the rest. Elara was gone. But she was also everywhere. The whisper in the wind carried the echo of her laughter. The resilience of the new sprouted trees held the strength of her wool. The cycle of the seasons reflected the rhythm of her heart, the joy of summer, the sorrow of autumn, the quiet hope of spring. She had not just saved them, she had given them a story. And in this new world, stories were the fundamental force of creation. They called the world they inhabited, Elara's garden, though no one could quite remember why. it was just a feeling, a truth that lived in the soil and the sky. In a quiet meadow, where the grass was particularly green and the flowers particularly bright, there often stood a young woman with hair the color of wheat and eyes that held a deep, ancient knowing. She would smile at the children playing, her form sometimes solid, sometimes little more than a trick of the light. If you asked her name, she would just smile and say, "I am a memory." And then she would fade, leaving behind only the scent of rain on warm earth and the unshakable feeling that the world was, and would always be, held in a loving, remembering embrace. The Alchemist of Lost Causes had finally found his catalyst. The archive was now the world itself, and every living thing was a keeper of its own, precious, unwritten story.
If you feel a chill down your spine, don't worry. They're just standing behind you, listening with you. Thank you for daring to enter the world of fairy tales of Nim. We'll see you again next night, if you're still around.